clouds gold light, echo birds take flight. Lele, sky wide, no shoes, just tide. Aloha, breathing deep, Kai sings me to sleep. Lele, dream keep, stars high, secret seep.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Gordon, and I am super excited about this podcast episode today. This is a special one. This is number 82, and I have my coach on the show, my new coach, David Schofield. David, welcome to the show.
Aloha, great to be here. Really looking forward to talking about the sport that I love and sharing it with you and your audience.
Yeah, this is great. David is the head coach of a group that's called New Hope Canoe Club. Um, and it's traditional Hawaiian outrigger canoeing and six-person paddling in the canoe. David's going to tell us a lot more about it. I'm very new to the sport, so we're going to learn a lot from him. We're going to learn the philosophy behind it and just what it means coming from Hawaii, which is where it originated. So we're going to learn a lot about the sport. But I just want to introduce you a bit to my audience. I like my audience to get to know my guests.
Yeah.
Okay. So David's also a chaplain, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how your faith and how your training, in terms of being a chaplain, kind of weaves through um, the lessons that you teach through the club. So,
Sure. Let's do it.
okay. Okay. So, like I said, it's called New Hope Canoe Club Ministry Atlantic, and it's a traditional Hawaiian outrigger canoe club that's located in Lewis, Delaware. It's the only one in the state of Delaware, I believe.
That is correct. Yeah, we're the only Hawaiian Outrigger Canoe Club in Delaware, but we're part of a network of Hawaiian Outrigger Canoe Clubs that get together and compete every year from around June through November. It's called ECORA. It's the East Coast Outrigger Racing Association, and you can look that up on the web. But we have competitions all up and down the East Coast. We just got back from a race in Milford, Connecticut this past weekend, but there's races on the Chesapeake Bay, up in Cayuga and the Finger Lakes. There's a race in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia Outrigger Canoe Club. They have a race in Brigantine, New Jersey. There's a club out of Hoboken, New Jersey, Kealoha. And then there's us. And then going south, there's Wrightsville Beach in North Carolina has a big club. And then a bunch of clubs in Florida. And the end of the season culminates with a huge race in Miami. So yeah, we all get together and we race each other, and it's a great community of people.
It's amazing, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And I am going to share with my listeners how we met and how I found my way to the sport, which I am absolutely captivated with. So I'm excited to share that later on in our conversation today. But I think it's interesting because you retired from the National Oceanic, NOAA, National Oceanic, um, how do you say NOAA? I'm blanking on that.
National Oceanic and Atmospheric
Atmospheric.
Administration. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I knew that. So you had a long career with NOAA, and so you worked in conservation and marine life, and so you've always kind of had this affinity for, I guess, being in the water
hmm
and kind of the natural, side of life. So do you think that that kind of led you towards outrigger canoeing?
Yeah, I had a dream job working in Hawaii. I was the regional marine animal stranding coordinator, so supported groups or was part of teams that would do things like disentangle humpback whales and a lot of Hawaiian monk seal management of keeping people away from mothers who say, let's decided to give birth to a pup on Waikiki Beach. And dehooking Hawaiian monk seals and doing dolphin stranding stuff. And yeah, I've been very blessed to have, I had a 33-year marine mammal conservation career, which started off being a dolphin, beluga whale, seal, and sea lion trainer at the beginning of all that. But yeah, I grew up in a family of watermen on the one side, going back generations. We're just finding out. So generations of watermen, and my uncle owned a bait and tackle shop in Brigantine, and fell in love with the ocean there. Got a job doing that kind of work, which led me to Hawaii. Lived there for 16 years, and discovered this wonderful sport of Hawaiian outrigger canoe paddling. So yeah, always want to be by the ocean, or some body of water.
It's so cool. And you moved to Lewis, I guess, just about 5 years ago?
Yeah,
You left
5 years
Hawaii?
ago. Yeah, it was it was in 2021. Nobody really knew how long COVID was going to last, and I was
Right.
far away from family, being way out there. And my mother, of course, is elderly, and so I decided to move back and get closer to her, get closer to other family members, and then yeah, was led to start up a Hawaiian Outrigger Canoe Club in Delaware, of all things. So you never know what God has planned for you.
It's
And
so true.
yeah, yeah.
So before we start talking about the club and then just about the sport, I want to ask you, so you were in Hawaii and you found the sport, okay? How many years ago was it when you found the sport?
I guess it was in like 2008 or 2009 or somewhere there in between. I found the sport. Yeah, it was funny. I called, there was a phone number at the beach, on this kind of impromptu or makeshift, I should say, shack that was over some canoes. And it said, call this number if you want to paddle. And so I called, and I spoke to a Hawaiian gentleman on the phone. And I said, well, is it okay if I'm haole, which means in Hawaiian, that means like a foreigner, a white foreigner. Usually it literally means without spirit or without without breath. But that's not how it's usually used, but it can be a derogatory term. But I said, hey, do you take haoles from the mainland who live here? And he laughed, very, very much so, on the other end of the line, said, sure. And so I came and I tried it. And I was, the first time I got in the canoe, I was just hooked. And some of the people that were there said, wow, you've already got the technique. So it was a perfect match. And yeah, it helped me to connect to the local culture a lot more, and to have be a part of a community that was, all mixed backgrounds, but a lot of Hawaiian teachings, and a lot of Hawaiian, learning about the culture, learning about the language, learning about the pidgin dialect, which is kind of the just the way of speaking out there that's very creative and colorful. And so I really got immersed in the Hawaiian culture by joining the club.
That's so cool. Let me ask you, what was there a moment when you got on the canoe, like there was something that stands out in your mind that you just fell in love with? Or was it just the whole sport?
I think I mean, you could say it's the whole sport, but yeah, the camaraderie of it, the fact that I think feeling the rhythm of the canoe would be the one. I mean, yeah, you're out in Hawaii, you're seeing sunsets, during after work practices, you're getting up early on a Saturday, you get exposed to traveling to the different islands for races, but that rhythm, that being one with the canoe, they say lokahi in Hawaiian, which means unity. And so it's six people in one canoe that's 44 feet long or thereabouts. And if you're not all working together, it feels very awkward, and the canoe kind of stutter steps, and it's like a disoriented centipede. But when you're all together with five other people, and it's just the one of the greatest feelings you can experience, to have that your cadence being in lockstep with each other. So that's what kind of hooked me.
I have a little picture. I don't know if my audience will be able to see it, but you can look it up too. But I have a little picture to show you just to give you an idea of what the canoe looks like. And there's six
Yeah.
seats in there. And this
Yeah.
is a traditional Hawaiian outrigger canoe.
Yeah, well,
So
that's actually the newest generation. So there's koa canoes, which are made, out of tree trunks from koa wood, which is a hardwood in Hawaii. And then in the 80s into the 90s and up until even present day, there are these heavier fiberglass canoes that weigh between 300 and 400 pounds. And then the one that you showed the picture of is the newest generation. They're about, I want to say, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years old, but I'm not thinking that old. But and they're made out of carbon fiber, and they only weigh 140 pounds, and so they really fly through the water. So, like anything else, we've evolved from old clunky, dugout log canoes to heavier fiberglass canoes to these really light racing machines, if you will.
I'm just curious that the traditional paddling community in Hawaii, do they embrace the new technology or do they stay with the older?
Well, there are clubs that have them, but a lot of them like the heavier canoes. And in fact, the Molokai Hoi, which is the big dance, it's called, and that's the big race every year that originates on Molokai and it goes to Oahu, and it's about 42 miles. And it's a change race where escort boats will follow with partial crew on board the escort boat. And every 30 or 40 minutes, that escort boat will run up in front of the canoe that's coming down range and drop paddlers in. And then the steersman comes up and right to those paddlers that are treading water. And the 3 fresh paddlers or 4 fresh paddlers will jump in, and some people will jump out. And so that's over the Kaiwi Channel, which is the channel that's between Oahu and Molokai, and that can get pretty spicy in there. And so the unlimited canoes, the carbon fiber ones that I was talking about, they're not allowed, they're not permitted in that race, just because they're basically too light. And we have 2 unlimiteds and we have 2 of the heavier fiberglass. And when we have a day on the water, maybe it's a northwest wind there in the bay, I much prefer to have those heavier canoes. You want a heavier canoe when it's rocking and rolling out there. So, and then, there's still people that spend a lot of time refurbishing the koa canoes. And there's actually a category in regatta races, which are the sprint races, and also during that Molokai change race, 4 koa canoes. So the legacy of those older traditional wooden canoes is very much held on to. And
Mhm.
I've gotten to race the Kaiwi Channel in a koa canoe before, and it's really quite an honor to be able to do that. It's seen as an honor. So
Mhm. I want to the reason I want to spend time kind of talking about the sport is because when we talk about like the philosophy of it and just what it can bring to your life, I want my audience to kind of understand first what it is
yeah,
and see your passion for it as well. I just want to, like David mentioned, so the club, the New Hope Canoe Club, there's 444, is it 444 foot? And when you say OC6, what does that stand for? If somebody sees the OC6.
yeah. OC6 is just outrigger canoe 6,
Okay.
meaning 6 people. So there's OC1s, single person styles of these canoes, which are they're 21 feet long and only about as wide as your rear end. And they have a tiny little ama, the floaty thing on the side, and they weigh about 34 pounds. And then there's 2-person ones. And then if you ever watch on YouTube or Facebook Reels, people who are surfing these crazy big waves in these outrigger canoes, it's usually a 4-person version of the outrigger canoe, so an OC4. And
Wow.
then sometimes we strap them together. Two sixes will be kind of attached together with 4x4s to make a 12-person canoe, and those are used for trainings. And they're fun to be in, and they're fun for teaching people how to paddle. So it's kind of like it's got training wheels because it's two canoes strapped together, separated by about 8 feet with 4x4s.
So interesting. And I so want to like say everything that how I found it and what I'm learning, but I'm really gonna hold back people, so you just have to hang in there. I just want to blurt it all out, but like don't do that yet. Okay.
Yeah,
So the club, still want to talk a little bit more about the club, then we'll move on. So the club partners with the Lewis Children's Beach House. Can you just
yeah,
tell us a little bit about why that partnership and what the Lewis Children's Beach House, what that is?
yeah. So the Lewis Children's Beach House, I guess, was established in 1938. So it's like, 90 years old. And it's a place for kids who have had some type of or have some type of disability in the area, specifically around either linguistics or hearing. And so, and it's in some cases, my understanding is that it's kids who are not necessarily in a very good home environment, or with that have suffered some type of trauma. So, for example, we worked this past summer with one of the camp counselors, who she was a selective mute when she was a child, and I'm not sure the background, but here she is. She attended the Children's Beach House to overcome this disability. And here she is, a camp counselor, and she's very bubbly and very outspoken and talks a mile a minute. You would never in a thousand years know that she suffered from this as a child. But it's a really great place and the kids are only from Delaware, and they don't have to pay a thing. And so they do a lot of fundraisers. So if you ever have the opportunity to go to a fundraiser at Children's Beach House, I ask you to consider that. They also have a catering department that goes out and caters events. You can have your wedding there, you can have parties there, and all the proceeds go back to supporting these kids. And so we connected with them 2 years ago, and we basically will interact with these kids, and we will do a classroom portion of a program to talk about like the tenets of aloha. What does aloha mean? What does it mean to work together? Because a lot of these kids are, because of their disability, are somewhat isolated in their personality. So we've seen some real breakthroughs with kids who are kind of, for lack of a better word, forced to work in a team because you're in a canoe together, and they really come out of their shell, and it helps them realize that we have to, we can't do this alone. We're greater together.
Hmm.
And that's really the motto. So our sister club, um, the club I was a part of on the island of Oahu, is New Hope Oahu, and so we're New Hope Canoe Club Ministry Team Atlantic. And so the motto of that sister club was "We're greater together." And there's a Hawaiian phrase that goes like "He va'a, he moku, he moku, he va'a," and that means the canoe is an island and the island is a canoe. And living in Hawaii, you really understand that you rely on your neighbors, you rely on community. If there's a hurricane or a power outage or a tree falls on your house, people come out of the woodwork to help you immediately. And so it's that same mindset of we have to work together. We need each other. And so I think that's really been an impactful program for these kids. So we provide those programs, and in turn, the Children's Beach House allows us to um, store through the summer months, summer and fall, be able to keep our canoes in their area for us to be able to run our program, our practices, and stuff like that.
And see, I think that's what's so beautiful about this club is because this isn't just, and as we dive more into this conversation, this isn't just about doing a sport. This is about being part of a community. It's about recognizing your place within the community. It's recognizing the importance of outreach in the community. And so there's so many dynamics you know, to the experience which
Hmm.
enhances the experience for everybody. It's just a really beautiful thing, which leads me to the next aspect of the club, which is this ministry aspect. And so the sister club you mentioned in Hawaii, New Hope, Oahu, if I said that correctly, Canoe Ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, and then ours has the ministry in the title. I also have a note that we're part of a crisis response ministry with the Crossing Church. So why is that word ministry important for this outrigger club in particular?
Well, there's a lot of Hawaiian Outrigger canoe clubs out there that are just clubs, and then likewise in Hawaii. But um, where this club is born out of is, as you said, it was a ministry. So there's a bunch of churches around the Pacific Rim and a lot in Hawaii that are of the New Hope franchise, if you will, and they're non-denominational. They're very just biblically based, and this New Hope Church on Oahu, New Hope International, and a pastor named Wayne Cordero came up with this idea of things called affinity ministries. So New Hope on Oahu has a hiking ministry, a golfing ministry, a surfing ministry, even in a Hawaiian Outrigger ministry, and even a boxing ministry, which I don't quite get. So we're going to pray and then I'm going to punch your lights out. But anyway, it works for people. But it's just the idea of getting out in creation and experiencing, what has been created by a creator. Some people call that by a different name. I know that as, a father God. And it's a way of reaching people, or people hearing about the gospel that wouldn't necessarily walk into the four walls of a church. If you look at the scripture Romans 1:20, and I'm paraphrasing here, it basically says, if you look around at what has been made, you have no excuse but to understand a little bit more about the mystery and character of our Creator. And so, this isn't by happenstance. There's a saying, or there's a I guess it's a theory that was put forth to kind of dismiss the concept of abiogenesis, which is just meaning that like stuff just happened randomly. But all of the life that we see, and even the development of a single-celled organism, isn't by chance. And if you say, well, it could be, it's similar to the chances of, like, if a tornado ripped through a junkyard and miraculously perfectly assembled a 757 airplane. That's the level of probability that it would take to create even just a single-celled organism. So, yeah, just the idea that if you're just being out in creation is powerful, and that it makes you think that there's something greater than yourself. And so that's really what we're all about. The ministry, and you've been in the Circle Up, I do usually mention a scriptural verse, but it's usually things that are common to everybody, like scriptures on hope and kindness and things, joy, things that we can all agree are important for life. Love, of course, is the lead tenet that Jesus talks about. So I keep it light, and I keep it to what the Bible says, and I keep it away from kind of the dogma of organized religion. Although I do belong to two different churches. I belong to a non-denominational one in the area, the Crossing, and then St. Peter's Episcopal Church. So I believe there's a place for that. But I just try to bring. I sometimes even say, like, if Jesus isn't your dude and the Bible's not your thing, just listen to the words that I'm saying, because they ring true to what we need in life. We need each other, and we need love, and we need hope, and we need to take care of each other. And so just the true, very basic, foundational aspects of the Bible is what I like to talk about. And then we go paddle, and it's about that. And we get together socially. We go to races. So that's really what the ministry side of it is
And
all
we
about. And just go
and
ahead.
we pray for safety on the water.
And we pray for safety, because the ocean can change at a moment's notice. The ocean can be very unforgiving.
Yeah.
And so we have to be safe. And the crisis response part that you mentioned, yeah. So We have a lot of people who are obviously in some pretty good shape, and people who bring a lot of different skills with them besides just the ability to paddle a canoe. And so we partner with the Crossing Church in Milton, right there on Route 1. You see it. And what it is basically is just um, getting together when there's a crisis of some kind, a flood or a wildfire or hurricanes or that kind of a thing. You always hear on the news about FEMA and the Red Cross and local EMS and local construction companies and everybody coming in and working to not only protect human life and but to salvage, and recover property and try to get people back to some normalcy. And that's kind of very well known. But the Red Cross acknowledges that after or during a crisis, as important as those response levels is spiritual support. So we go in and um, we are tasked with helping with the cleanup and maybe helping rebuild houses. We were recently in Tennessee where I, for the first time in my life, learned how to hang vinyl siding. And, I was a marine biologist. And so what does a marine biologist know about vinyl siding? But I learned that skill, and other people were working on insulation. So we went in for a week. We came alongside the families that had lost literally everything. And we helped in the next phase of their home building. And so we listen and we talk to them. And if they want prayer, we give prayer. If they don't want prayer, we just are there to help out. So that's the kind of work that the crisis response team does.
And that's actually a really good transition to where I want to take this conversation because let me think, one, two, three, four. There's 5 words that I've
Mhm.
seen on the back of the shirts that you wear. I've seen it on the website, and I just want to kind of walk through each of the word and then tell me what it means to you. And you've kind of touched on a lot of this so far, but let's see if I can say the word correctly. The first word is akahi.
Akahai.
Akahai.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay.
Hey,
Yeah. So
this is
these are
unplugged. This is real and unplugged. Okay,
yeah.
Akahai.
So this is So I'll let you continue, but this is the word aloha, which has been broken down into an acronym, and so a lot of people think
Oh, right.
a,
Just
a lot of
noticed
people think
that.
yeah. So a lot of people think aloha just means hello and goodbye, and you
Okay.
go on Hawaiian Airlines and you get a lei and you get a mai tai, and they say aloha when you get on the plane. They say aloha when you get off, but to Hawaiian cultural practitioners and Hawaiian priests, which are kahu, or Hawaiian elders, which is kupuna, or Hawaiian teachers, kumu. One of our canoes is named the kumu va'a, meaning the teaching canoe. But to these people that are deeply immersed in the culture, aloha means a lot more than that. And so akahai is the first letter of aloha, and it means kindness. And then you go from there. What's next?
Oh gosh. Okay, well, here I'm gonna try, but Lokahai?
Lokahi.
Lokahi.
And Lokahi means unity. So,
Unity.
and you've been in the canoe not a lot beginning, but that's probably the number one word that you'll hear the steersman shout out, Lokahi. And that means unity. That means get together. You're out of sync a little bit. So get those paddles in the water together and get the glide together, feel each other, feel the canoe, and get in Lokahi, get in unity.
Maybe I should say the English and you should say the Hawaiian word because I
Whatever,
don't know about this next one.
whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'm gonna try it because it's fun.
Yeah, try it.
Alu, olu,
Olu olu.
olu, olu.
Yeah, and that means graciousness, or to be in agreement with someone else. It also can mean like to tolerate somebody. Like we all have that family member, right? So or family members, and the old joke is, if you don't know who that is in your family, it's you.
It's
But olu is to be in agreement, or to come together in thought, or to tolerate each other. And so that's an important concept, because again, we have to have the mindset of olu to bring our best when we're getting in the canoe.
yeah. still holding back from my my personal experiences, which I'm going to share soon. Okay. Ha aha ah.
Yeah, it's like you're laughing. It sounds like you're laughing. Ha ah ha ah.
Aha
And that
aha
means
aha.
ha ah ha
Ha
ah.
ha oh ha ha ah.
Yeah, yeah, that one. But that means, yeah, that means humility.
I mean, no disrespect. I'm just trying words for the
No,
very first time.
no, it's I don't know how to describe it. I guess again, being around it, I guess the emphasis is on the backside of the word in Hawaiian. I'm
Ah,
just realizing that right now as you're
ah.
talking and I'm talking. So ha is it's just humility. Probably one of the most important things we can have as human beings, especially in this day and age, is a little dose of humility in our step.
Hmm. Oh boy. Oho nui. Oho
Close,
nui.
very close. Aho nui, aho
Aho
nui.
nui.
And that just means patience. So yeah, aho nui, patience. So we have akahai, kindness, lokahi, unity, olu olu, which means to be gracious, ha'a ha'a, which is humility, and aho nui is patience. So what I often sometimes will say is that, if you look at scripture, if you look at Galatians 5:22 through 23, it talks about the fruits of the spirit. And so those things that are deep within us, and it's how we exude them or channel them, if you want to use that word, or how we um, let them out or manifest them. And the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, forgiveness, and self control. And so when I think of aloha, the kindness, the unity, the graciousness, humility, and patience, it very much reminds me of that scripture verse that we're taught in Galatians when Paul is talking to that audience, and he's reminding them that, hey, you have these attributes within your soul, and it's our responsibility to show those attributes. And so big part of the club is to try to show aloha to people that we might encounter on the beach, or to remember to do that in our own lives with, again, maybe it's a difficult coworker or a difficult family member. But if we walk around with the spirit of aloha, we it's contagious, right? It rubs off on other people. So that's the idea.
Hmm. Okay, so this leads us to the lessons. The lessons we learn in the canoe. Now remember, there's a variation, but we're talking about six people in a canoe, okay?
Right?
And
Yeah.
each seat has a different role, right? Depending if you're in seat one, seat two, seat three, four, five, six, and coach, he assigns the seats. So in your mind, you're thinking about who's in each seat, each practice, and what you're trying to teach us as a student, what we bring to, each other in harmony. So let's talk about some of the lessons in the canoe because, it's a very physical sport. I mean, we had practice this morning. I'm exhausted. I mean, I had to take a nap. I mean, it's a physical sport, but you're not in it for your own physicality. You're in it as a unit for unity.
Yeah.
So what happens when somebody gets in it and they're just out there, like doing their own thing? How does that throw
Doing their own thing.
everything off?
Well, and that's when you hear me yell, or the other steersmen in the club, lokahi, that means get together. And so, yeah, so what seat one and two set the pace. So seat one is really setting the pace. Seat two is kind of behind them in their ear saying, bring it down, speed it up, blah, blah, blah. And then three, four, and five are what we call the engine room. So that's just power. You're just digging in, and you're making sure that you're staying in lokahi, you're staying in pace with seat one, and then six is the steersman or steerswoman, and they steer the canoe. So they have a bigger paddle than everybody else. It's kind of half paddle, half rudder, and you do
Okay.
things like poke on each side, and that directs the canoe. But yeah, if you're not together, it can be very difficult. So we'll call different commands to bring it up for four changes. So every 14th or 15th stroke, usually, sometimes it's higher than that, someone will yell hut, and then the whole team will yell ho. And on the back of the hoe, the back part of the paddle stroke, when you hear the hoe, you switch over to the other side. So you're not on the same side all the time. Like dragon boating, you're on the same side all the time. So yeah, you have to listen. You have to be very much paying attention to what the steersman's saying, because if the steersman sees a big wave coming or is headed for the rocks and wants help to get the canoe in another direction, they'll shout out a command that basically means to pull the canoe left or right to get the nose around quickly. And so you have to listen. You have to be attentive. Everybody has to be aware of what's going on in the environment, the steersman especially. But if if somebody sees something in the water, then they need to say something. So see something, say something. So you're all working together. Again, that idea of like you're on an island for an hour and a half. You're on this 140-pound, 44-foot long, 12-inch wide, the part you're sitting in, island together, and you have to be working together on that little island. And you need to feel the rhythm. I'll often shout out, feel each other, which, might sound a little, I don't know, risque, but feel each other, feel the boat. What is seat 3 doing? What is seat 4 doing? I often bring up the fact that really experienced paddlers in Hawaii that routinely sit in seat 1, they can feel through the canoe, through their butt and legs, like what seat is lagging behind. And you'll hear them say,
Wow.
seat 3, bring it up. And it's like, how do they don't have eyes in the back of their head, but they can tell because they've done this so much. And so you're feeling each other, you're feeling the rhythm. There's different gears. We talked about gears this morning. Like there's a really fast pace that we bring it up if we're trying to overtake a canoe in a race. There's kind of our normal cruising speed, and then there's this slower, real slow cadence that has the same amount of power, but it's not chop, chop, chop in the water. And then if we're confronted with a wave that we can potentially ride, which is a lot of fun, if you catch a wave in a 44-foot canoe with 6 people, you're basically all on the same surfboard. And there's a lot of good wraparound waves there by Cape Henlopen Point, or the Cape, I guess they call it. And so there's a tap, tap, tap. If you've ever seen a surfer paddle paddle through the water with their hands really fast to get up on the surfboard, we do the same thing. So, yeah, you have to all be in sync.
So if it capsizes, is it typically because one person was out of sync?
Well, they don't necessarily capsize. They will flip over. We call that huli. It's a huliing, and we practice that. Yeah, that can be if somebody's not paying attention and they swing their body to the right. So you have that ama, that float thing that's on the side, um, and the arms that go out to that float. So that's to keep you stable, but it's still the canoe can be unstable if 2 people lean to the
Mm-hmm.
right just a little bit or power too much on the right hand side, the boat will flip right over.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that means you're not paying attention and you're not reading the water. If the water is really rough, the steersman will call everybody on the left to kind of protect the ama and protect the canoe from going over for a short time. A lot of times when we're going in the Roosevelt Inlet where there's boat traffic, the water will be really squirrely. And then there's sometimes around the breakwaters where there's turbulent water, and around the Cape proper, there can be turbulent water. So we have to call everybody on the left. But I mean, you have to be paying attention. You have to respond to that command or we'll go over.
Hmm. So the reason we're having this conversation, besides the fact that I have personally fallen in love with it myself now, which we're getting to, is that my podcast is really all about health and human performance and about health promotion.
Mhm.
And here is a sport that is just so much bigger than just the physical aspect of the sport. And what we find in research is that when we find things that we truly enjoy doing, it's we tend to stick with them longer term, and it tends to enhance the quality of our life. So, ultimately I'm a health promotion leader. And so I'm having you on the show, David, because I want to spotlight the sport and I want to demonstrate to people there's all kinds of ways you can get out and enjoy being physically active. And so, with that said, I thought it was interesting. I came across a research study because this is all very new to me. I just learned about the sport like just, not even a month ago. So, this is a whole new world for me, and I'm excited to share how I found it, and that's coming. But I also came across research, and the research benefits to out traditional Hawaiian outrigger canoeing. And I thought that was fascinating that I came across. I'm sure there's more studies, but I just want to talk about this one study that I found. It was conducted in 2025. It's published in Health Promotion International by Schmidt and colleagues. And it was conducted through the University of Hawaii, and make sure I say this correctly,
Manoa, Manoa.
Manoa. Okay. 362 participants. That's a large sample size. Self-identified paddlers. 65% female, 35% male. I'm curious though, is it a male-dominated sport? Does that seem like or very even?
No, it's very even. And in fact,
Okay.
I'll say, like everything else, females are often your better paddlers, just like everything else. We're the subservient. I'm the part of the subservient species. But no, I mean, you have very strong women and that do this race. And so they're the Molokai races I talked about, crossing the channel in pretty rough water, 42 miles. There's Na Wahine Oke Kai, and Wahine is female. So there's a all female race that goes from Molokai to Oahu, and then a few weeks later, usually around Columbus Day weekend, there's the Molokai Hoi, which is the male version of it. So yeah, the women are as tough as the guys for sure.
That's wonderful. Well, and so back to the study, age range from 18 to over 75. That's a large age range of self-identified paddlers. That's amazing.
Well,
So,
that speaks to the fact that when I first started paddling in this canoe club, we when we go out, the club you're familiar
mhm.
with here in Lewis, we have two, maybe three canoes going out at the same time. A lot of times it's just a single canoe. But the canoes with the New Hope Oahu, they might on a Saturday morning have 15 canoes out on the water, and
Wow.
we would head from Sand Island to Waikiki, and it looked like we were paddling over there to take over Waikiki. It was really a lot of fun, but you'd have these old guys. I'd say old guys. They're in the mid to late 70s paddling, and they looked like they were effortless. They were just going through the water. And of course, some of them had paddled together since high school. And
Wow.
in high school in Hawaii, a gym elective is actually Hawaiian Outrigger canoe paddling after school. So instead of going to gym class, you can elect to show up at one of these clubs and do Hawaiian Outrigger canoe paddling to get your credit. So some of these folks paddle all their lives, and there's a saying that the older paddlers in our canoe club said, "Yeah, we paddle 3-4 times a week. We eat right. We do this. We do that." And you might say we live to paddle, just like we live for football or whatever. But they say we live to paddle, but we paddle to live. And so they very much have this mindset of like, this is keeping me alive longer,
Mm,
and that's very prevalent across the paddling community in Hawaii.
it's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, we
So,
live to paddle, we paddle to live.
paddle
Isn't
to
that cool?
live. That is
Yeah.
cool. Well, so this study looked at outrigger canoe paddling participation within its heritage and cultural relevance and the impact on improving motivation towards physical activity. And David, you don't know this, but my whole dissertation and my expertise within health and human performance is on exercise motivation. So when I found the
Cool.
study, it was just right, within my research interest areas. And I'll just say to my audience, because I talk a lot on my show about self-determination theory, this one was actually framed in a different theoretical framework. And I've said often that, there's lots of different theories to understand motivation and human motivation. This one was grounded in social ecological model, which just basically says looks at human development as a dynamic interaction between the growing human organism and their changing environment across the lifespan. So I think that's interesting because I've talked often on the show about self-determination theory and the three basic psychological needs that we're trying to meet. And I won't get into all that in this conversation, but this particular study was just framed a little bit differently. And here's the findings. Let me go over the findings, and then I want to ask you your impression on these findings because you
Hmm.
you live and breathe this. Okay, this is research. You're a practitioner, so I'd like to hear what you think.
That's
So
cool.
the findings say paddling supports a strong connection to ancestry and fosters resilience. Okay, that was the first major theme. The second was there were spiritual elements to the sport that could improve health outcomes and overall well-being. And the third major finding was paddling aligns with best practices, guidelines, and effective health promotion interventions to promote physical activity. So see, this is, and we haven't gotten to like how I found it and what I think about it, but this feels to me like everything you've just shared with us up to this point. So I'm curious, what do you think about these findings in the study?
Well, yeah, it's all true, and I think it's why I glommed onto it so quickly. And so, yeah, I mean, this was University of Hawaii at Manoa, and so obviously a big Hawaiian clientele or people who have spent a good share of their life in Hawaii.
Hmm.
And yeah, there is a big connection in Hawaii to ancestry, and so the idea of kupuna, the elders are very much respected. There's a lot of oral tradition, stories passed down from one generation to the next, and a lot of fact and lore around ancestors and their power that they have in our lives. And so that's a big part of the Hawaiian culture and what I experienced as well. And yeah, it fosters resilience. If you can, get through a practice or I remember the first time I did the Molokai crossing, 42 miles, I was like, there's no way I can do this. And in the beginning of the race, you got 110 canoes on the beach. There's a lot of electricity on the beach, a lot of energy. And you go and you do this race and you get out to this place called Lau Point, which is the first time after 8 miles that the canoes are allowed to change out crews with the safety boats, because by that time the canoes have spread out and you don't have escort boats on top of each other and potential injury. So you got a lot of adrenaline in that first couple changes. And then of course, when you see Diamond Head and you're rounding Diamond Head at the end and you're coming across Waikiki Beach and you hear thousands of people cheering on Waikiki Beach and cheering at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, you have a lot of adrenaline then. But somewhere in between, when you're out in the middle of the Kaiwi Channel and you can't see Molokai anymore and you can barely see Oahu, you're like, why in the world am I doing this? Like what in the world possessed me to go through this torture? And so, and it's a lot of butterflies, it's a lot of adrenaline, it's some anxiety, it's everything you can imagine wrapped up into an experience. And so, but once you do that, once you finish it, you're like, man, I did that. I actually did that. And so it's very powerful for your own personal confidence. But it's not just that. It's not ego or confidence necessarily. It's a lot about there's an inner peace that comes about by accomplishing something like that. Your body is spent. I know I didn't sleep for 3 days after that race because my body was so jacked up. I didn't sleep well. I slept a little bit, but and then on that fourth day, boy, I slept like a baby for 12 hours straight. But it's quite an accomplishment. So that teaches resilience, and that teaches that we can do anything we put our mind to. I mean, I often have said, in practicing for a race, that it's when you're spent and you got nothing left, and it's the last half a mile of the race, and your muscles are burning, and you're a triathlete, so you know the same thing. But how are you getting across that finish line? Because your body's done, and so it's 90% mental and 10% physical. And I've actually had paddlers afterwards say that's a bunch of crap, but it's true because there's no other way you're getting across that finish line. My coach in Hawaii always used to quote that one bank card commercial, "What's in your wallet?" So, like what's in your back pocket, what's in your package, meaning your body, what's in your mental and physical package, what's in your wallet that's going to get you across that finish line. And then the spiritual elements. Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about it, but there's this idea in scripture and in theological teachings about the thin veil. So every once in a while we encounter something and it's kind of like an aha moment. And it's kind of like you can just reach above your head and grab uh, and be up in heaven, or a place where heaven dips down into our earthly realm. And you go, wow, I get it. There's a powerful presence of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. In my world, I call that the Holy Spirit. Other people call that different things. But that thin veil, when you're connected to uh, something greater than yourself, or creation, or a feeling of magnificence. And so I get it when we catch a little bump or a little wave around, out by Cape Henlope and the point there. There's a nice set of wraparound waves, and when we get on a wave and are able to surf that, that's my thin veil. That's my aha moment. And so I feel, a lot of people feel it in the canoe a lot. And then paddling aligns with, best practice, effective health promotion. So yeah, you can't show up and be a slacker. You got to be on your game. You got to contribute. It makes people want to eat healthier. It makes people want to not let their teammates down and also do the best they can. And I often say that the canoe club is not where you come to get in shape. You get in shape outside of the canoe. You go to the gym, you walk, you bike, you do whatever you need to do to be in shape, so that when you get in the canoe, you reap the benefits of your physical conditioning. And we have recreational paddling, so we have the kind of um, lesser energy paddling, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:30. And we go about somewhere between 3 and 5 miles, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And then the competitive paddling is anywhere from 8 to 12 miles, depending on the crew and if we have a race coming up. And so we very much promote that, in order to excel in this sport, you need to be doing something outside of the canoe.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful sport. So many incredible lessons in it. So before we get to the big reveal,
Yeah. I want you to tell them your story because I love it.
okay, we're getting very close. But I
Uh,
put together this little philosophy on life. Okay, let me know what you think about it. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
The canoe resembles life.
Hmm.
Okay. We don't control the water. We don't control the wind. We don't always control who's the strongest on a particular day, but we can control whether we keep showing up, whether we listen, whether we trust one another, and whether we continue to paddle forward. And isn't that just how life works?
No, that's great. No, I love it. That really does sum it up. And again, we don't just live to paddle, we paddle to live. And
Paddle
so,
to live.
and then again, I'll remind everybody of that saying, hey va'a, hey moku, hey va'a. So moku is like island, but it really means like mountain. So if you think of the Hawaiian Islands, these these mountains that are jutting up from the seafloor, and then the va'a, uh, W-A apostrophe A, is canoe. So you have island canoe, canoe island, and yeah, we depend on each other. And you know what? There might be some days where, hey, you know what? We get out of the canoe and we say, hey, we were a little off today. That's okay. You have off days, but you do it together and you support each other. And you you come back another day and you do better. And so you're gonna have off days. And that's another thing I love about our club. Our little club is that, so many people have come to the club who have recently had some trauma in their life, or a past trauma, or they're in the club and they're going through a trauma, a divorce or a disease process. And I've just been so encouraged by the way that we all come around each other. So it really is a community for paddling and recreating together, but it's a community that supports each other in life.
Mhm.
Because again, we can't do this alone for such a time as this, as it were. So doing life together, the idea of doing life together for such a time as this is so important. People go to church for that. People join social groups. They join, a Lewis and Bloom planting community. There's many different reasons why people gather, and this is just a really powerful group that has gathered together.
It is, which is a great transition.
And go.
And David, you don't know how hard it was for me to hold this back up
I
to this
know.
point. So, okay. So for my audience, let me say I was very intentional about when I wanted to kind of talk about how I found the group, what it means to me, and just the energy that I feel in it, because then I want to talk about something that's going to be coming up for us in October that we're all really excited about, and we want to use this platform to share about it. So here's the story. Okay. So I live in Delaware, and I guess maybe a month ago now, maybe a little bit over a month, I might have talked about it in a past episode. I went up to Hoboken, New Jersey to dog sit my grand dog, Frankie. He's a 5-month-old golden retriever, and if you've ever seen a 5-month-old golden retriever, he's huge. Looks like a full-grown dog, but he's a puppy. And I'm really grateful that my son and my daughter-in-law trusted me with him, and he's an amazing little love bug. Anyhow, but he's a puppy. So it was a busy weekend. But I put him in his crate, take a little nap. I thought, okay, I have like maybe 2 hours, hour and a half. I wasn't gone very long. And I decided to just take a walk in Hoboken. And I walked down to the Hudson River. And at first I thought maybe there was an art festival going on down by the river because there was tents and people congregating and whatnot. And then I started walking. I didn't actually see what was going on in the river. I just kind of walked around the greens and I saw all these people. They looked kind of like in Hawaiian clothing. They were so joyful. They so much great energy. And I was really in a space myself where I was like, gosh, I really wish I had a connection like that in my life where I felt part of a community like that because I just didn't really have that at this point in time. And so, especially coming out of a PhD program, I mean, I have friends from the program, but it was very kind of like a singular type of a experience. So, anyhow, everything about it felt really magical for me. Then I walked down to the river and I saw these boats. Well, I didn't know what they were. Now I know they're canoes, but I thought, wow, are they rowing? Are they rowing on the river? What is this? It was fascinating to me. And I had like the Empire State Building behind, the skyline, had the New York's, skyline behind it. It was just beautiful. So I go up and I say to this lady, what is this? And she explains it to me. It's traditional Hawaiian outrigger canoeing. I was like, wow, this is cool. Then I said, somehow it came about that she was in a club in a nearby state. It's the Kent Island Outrigger Canoe Club. I don't know exactly how to say their club name. She's actually originally from Belgium. And she said, you have a club in your state. I said, wow, I've never heard of it. So she told me the name of it. I was captivated by it. I think it was like seeing it on the water, seeing people work together, seeing the camaraderie, it just was an amazing experience for me. And so I literally I walked back to the apartment, and I was probably about a mile, I don't know exactly how far, but it wasn't super close to my son and daughter-in-law's apartment. Anyhow, I walked back, took Frankie for a walk, got my laptop, and I sent it right through. I went right to the website and I sent an informational I contacted you guys. And I guess the saying is the rest is history. I'm such a newbie. I just finished my fourth paddle with the group, and it's something so different than I've ever experienced. As a triathlete, the triathlon community is amazing. I love the triathlon community, but a lot of the training is on your own, unless you find like an accountability partner or a small group. But you're still out there swimming, biking, and running, kind of on your own. And I still love that, don't get me wrong, but the thing that I fell in love with the outrigger um, canoeing is you really have to work together as a group. You can bring your own physical strength to the experience, and your own readiness. You have to be ready but you start to realize that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that's just the message for life. Like, yeah, you can go through life on your own. You can walk, you can be successful and walk your own path. But don't we get so much more depth and meaning when we connect with other people and just so that's what it is for me. So I'm, coach, I am so grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful to be a part of the group now, and everybody was so welcoming. And I look forward to what the future holds with it. And I love the fact that you said, we're paddling to live. We're canoeing through life.
Yeah,
And we all bring all kinds of challenges. And, I always say on my podcast, life is never a straight path, but we learn a lot in those curves. And it's really nice to have the support of such an amazing community on that journey. So, so that's my
yeah,
story. Isn't that kind of like a like I feel like
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
what do you
Your
call it?
confession. Yeah, yeah. I have heard you, my daughter. Now you can go forth and sin no more. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No, we don't do that. But anyway, no,
So
it's
that's
really,
my story.
yeah, it's your story. Well, and I say, yay, Frankie. You had to walk the dog, or you wouldn't have found all this. The other thing I laugh about is, man, our outreach must not be too good that you have to go all the way to Hoboken, New Jersey to
Right.
hear about our club in Delaware. So I guess we got to do a better job, and you're doing it
Well,
right now. So thank you for putting the
yeah.
awareness out there. But yeah, that was the K Aloha is the canoe club in Hoboken, and they do great stuff with kids and community in Hoboken. And it's called the Hudson Cup, and it's 3 races that go down the Hudson River around Governor's Island and the Statue of Liberty, and then come back up. And the men's and women's races are about 10 or 12 miles, I forget. And then there's a mixed race with men and women. That's a shorter race, about 9 miles. And so yeah, the Hudson River can get pretty spicy and pretty rowdy, and so it's a fun body of water to paddle in. And we paddle around the Statue of Liberty, which is like really cool to be racing and being right up there against Lady Liberty. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm glad you found us.
yeah, an amazing thing is that you were out on the water. You on a safety boat.
Yeah,
You were there.
I was there. I was
Incredible.
there, and we were that close. But yeah, we didn't really have a crew that came together for that particular race. And so I took our canoes up to be able to rent them to clubs who were coming from out of town. Like there was a club from Chicago that was at that race. And so we got to, and Florida. So we got to rent out our canoes, and then I donated my time to be on an official boat. So yeah, we all, just like we work together in the canoe club, it's the broader community of about 20 clubs on the East Coast, all pretty much will give their shirt off their back for you. So,
Incredible. It's such an
yeah,
incredible community. It feels like such a blessing for me. So with that said, and I know I did a little research. There's clubs all over the world. I mean, there's everywhere, Australia, and there's a lot of it's. Would you say it's like an becoming more popular, or did I just never know about it? I mean, it
no,
feels like
it is definitely growing.
okay.
I moved after 16 years in Hawaii. I moved to Lewis, in 2021. And I think there was about 10 or 11 ECORA, East Coast Outrigger Racing Association, member clubs. And I think we're up to 20 in 5 years. So it's definitely growing, at least on the East Coast, and other parts of the world. But yeah, the Miami race that's coming up, there's actually clubs that come down from Canada, over from Chicago. People will fly out from California. There's a lot of clubs in California. That Molokai Hoi race that I mentioned, one year we pulled together a team with people who didn't have a seat in the canoe from their club, or their club wasn't sending somebody, and they wanted to do the race. So in one crew, we had paddlers from Brazil, Japan, all through different clubs in Hawaii. Some people came over from California. So we had, like what we called a bunch of orphans came together to form a crew for the Molokai race. And so it's all over the world,
It's
all
so
over the world.
cool. So this leads me to something that I'm really excited to talk about and to give you an opportunity to share with our listeners. So our club is having an inaugural event. First time. First time ever in Delaware.
Yeah.
It's called the Cape Henlopen Outrigger Invitational 2026. It's going to be held on October 17th at the Lewis Yacht Club.
Hmm.
And why this year and what is it?
Well, as I mentioned, we're part of ECORA, that Outrigger Racing Association on the East Coast, and I mentioned we do attend a lot of different races. So those are point series races, and so when you, as a club, go and compete in these races, depending on where you place and even just showing up, you get certain number of points, and then amongst our little group of 20 clubs, we decide who the winner is each year, and so that's exciting. But we so as I think I mentioned in the beginning, there's races all up and down the East Coast. We were just in Milford, Connecticut for a race. Kent Island has the biggest race, 35 miles around Kent Island. That's a change race. There's also a 10-mile sprint race. Um, and the races coming up are in, there's a Bay Bridge span race, which isn't actually an Ecora Point Series race, but it's where all kinds of crafts, SUPs and OC1s and kayaks and OC6s will compete to go off of Sandy Point State Park and around one of the Bay Bridge spans and back. Then there's a race at Brigantine, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. There's a big race in the Tennessee Gorge. It's called Chattajack. That's a 32-mile race, which we're not doing. And then it culminates with a big race, like I said, in Miami in November 7th or 8th, one of those dates. But we pitched the idea of having one of these point series races to Ecora in a meeting last February, which is when we all get together to plan out the season coming up. And we got approved to have our own race here in Lewis. So yeah, the Lewis Yacht Club is going to be the venue. We'll stage canoes at the beach there, and there'll be different vendors. IV drip bar will come, and for paddlers who want to get an IV after they've paddled, a full, bag full of vitamins and minerals and whatever. There's that. The yacht club will allow us to stage canoes on their beach, to wash down canoes after the race. They're going to cater the event for the paddlers. We'll have the pre-race coaches meeting inside one of their areas to go over the courses. We have 5 safety boats that are going to be involved that will follow the lead, middle, and end of the pack for 3 different races. There'll be a men's, women's, and mixed crew races, about 10 miles. And yeah, it's going to be a blast. And we're excited to be doing the first year of what will hopefully be many years. And of course, October can be a little dicey, so we're praying for good weather. And we do have options. So if it's really good weather, we'll shoot out from the Lewis Yacht Club around one of the inside breakwater, the green beacon there, and then keep going around Cape Henlopen Point and down towards the Navy Jetty and back, and that'll be about 10 miles. If the weather's not so great, we might stay in the bay and do a course inside the bay. And if the weather's really not cooperative, we can have the race in the back river system, starting behind the yacht club and going up the Broadkill River about 5 miles and then turning around on a buoy and coming back. So we're really hoping for some great weather with low wind. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome time.
And the thing about our club is everybody volunteers. So we have a wonderful person, Patricia Rivera, who is a kind of a local legend herself and for marketing and media. And so she put these really nice flyers together for sponsorship and all the details about the race. So if anybody wants to find out, like if they want to participate, if they want to sponsor, what is the best way to get in touch with us?
Yeah, so go on to our website, newhopeatlantic.org, and there'll be someplace in there that says contact us. And yeah, so we as far as participating, it's mostly canoe club members that are part of Ecora that can actually race in the race. Now, we might open this up in years in the future to smaller craft, and then we can open it up to the broader community. But yeah, right now we really need sponsors. Each time one of these clubs along the East Coast hosts a race, it's meant to be a fundraiser for the club. And so as you can imagine, to insure these canoes is very expensive. I mean, it has the potential to be a dangerous sport. Now, you have very experienced people. We only go out in certain weather conditions. We don't like a northwest wind above about 10 miles an hour whipping down the bay. We just don't go out those days. But so insurance is expensive to maintain these canoes. You know, each one of the unlimited canoes, the lighter ones, the carbon fiber 140 pounders, they're $23,000 canoes. And so um, we need to actually get those canoes, those two canoes, reconditioned, some fiberglass work and repainting. And so we really are trying to hope to get sponsors to help us build a little bit of revenue from this race and a visibility from this race. So if you go on there, you can be a sponsor and get your logo, if you're a company, on the back of our shirts. There's if you have a silent auction item that you could donate, or know of some organization or venue that would donate something for a silent auction, we need that to help raise money for the club. We also need volunteers because there's a lot of work. We have safety boats going out. We need safety handlers on those boats that have experience on the water in case something happens. If you're listening and you're an EMT, we'd love to have an EMT on one of the safety boats or a couple of EMTs on different boats. You work in the silent auction table, working to help with, parking, because again, there'll be people coming from all over the East Coast and maybe even further away. So managing the parking situation down by the yacht club, we need help with that. So and just coming and viewing it, witnessing it, and participating by cheering on the teams and maybe helping carry canoes up and down the beach for the cruise. When you come out of the water, after giving it your all for 10 miles, the last thing you want to do is be carrying a canoe up the beach. So
Heavy.
you can
They're
you can
heavy.
help. Yeah, well, at that point they're heavy. Yeah, at that point they get really heavy. So we could use volunteers to help out with pulling this event off. So contact either Sarah here or go to newhopeatlantic.org.
Excellent. And again, the event is October 17th in Lewis, Delaware at the Lewis Yacht Club. It's the first one. And we're all super excited to be a part of this moment for the club. So I want to wrap up. I want to say one quick thing, and then I have one final question for you. And I know I kept you a
Yeah,
little bit longer, but this is such a fascinating conversation. And I guess I'm not trying to say to my audience like everybody should do be, an outrigger canoe paddler. I mean the bigger message is find something that you enjoy
yeah,
and you're more likely to enjoy living a more physically active lifestyle. When you put in place social connections, we call it relatedness and self-determination theory, you get the benefits of everything we've talked about in this podcast episode today in terms of community, in terms of outreach, giving out and receiving. And so, if this piques your interest, give it a go. It could change your life like it has mine. But the bigger takeaway is find something in your life that you truly enjoy doing, and don't be scared to go to jump in and try
yeah.
it.
No,
Okay?
exactly. And yeah, I would say for the outrigger paddling, yeah, don't be intimidated by it. We do have, like I said, that recreational paddling. And the first day you show up, we might take the other paddlers 3 or 4 miles or 5 miles, but you can come and get in the canoe, and we'll just go from Children's Beach House, where we stage the canoes, up to Roosevelt Inlet and back, which is about, total of a half a mile. So you can come and check it out, and see how you like it. It's very much for those of you in the viewing audience that do stand-up paddleboard. It's very much like stand-up paddleboarding in that the paddle is straight up and down, perpendicular to the water, and you're twisting your body. It's not like kayaking where the paddle's kind of at an angle to the side. So if you do stand-up paddleboard, you're one step ahead of the game. But yeah, come check it out. But as Sarah said, yeah, doing something. I think doing something physically, but with a group, is very, very important. I wrestled in high school and part of college, and being part of a team really motivates you to stay on it, stay with it. So if it's not outrigger paddling, maybe it's pickleball or maybe it's something with a team. There's a lot of, I know, softball leagues for people of a little bit older age. So yeah, get involved, get outside and play with a team. Go out and play. Go play outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, last question. This is my
Yeah,
signature question. I ask all my guests, and people answer it from many different perspectives. You can answer it literally, figuratively, however you want to answer it. I just think it's interesting based on people's life experiences and just how they answer it. So, you ready for it?
go ahead, hit me.
Okay. Okay, coach. David, what are we training for?
What are we training for? Wow. Well, of course, that's a multifaceted question, or has a multifaceted answer. I mean, we're training, I guess, to better ourselves. Again, I've said it a couple times now, but we live to paddle, yes, but we paddle to live. So we train to have a great quality of life. We train to be a productive member of a team. So we're training for ourselves, but we're also training for our teammates. And I think we're training to do the best we can to enjoy nature, enjoy creation. So we can't. The area between the Cape and the inner breakwater, I affectionately call the dolphin pond. It's not really a pond, but there's always dolphins. It seems to be in that little stretch of water, I guess, because of the breakwater and the fact that the different currents maybe traps fish that attract the dolphins. It's also areas where there's, the water is protected. It's a little calmer. So maybe the dolphins are in there taking a break or taking a rest. And, we train so that we can get out there and see the dolphins. So how's that for an answer?
It's a great answer.
Yeah. That's the best
Uh,
I got.
that's perfect. All right, everybody, there you have it. I was really excited to have this conversation with you today. It's David Schofield of New Hope Canoe Club Ministry Atlantic. Big event coming up on October 17th. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll put the club's contact information in the notes. And yeah, let's I'm trying, I don't
Aloha.
know.
And there's a Hawaiian word that, say this with me, Sarah, a hui ho.
A hui ho. You read my
That means,
mind. Wanted to
yeah,
say something Hawaiian, but I don't know.
yeah.
A,
So a hui ho, it
a
means
hui
just
ho.
until we meet again.
A hui ho. Until we meet again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, I'm so grateful to have this platform to educate and motivate on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. Thank you, David, for joining us today.
Thank you. Aloha.
All right. Bye-bye.
Feather clouds go light, echo birds take flight. Lele, lele, sky wide, no shoes, just tie